Are you ready to get into another relationship now?
Of course.
Like you're mentally ready, emotionally ready,
Of
and
course.
all that. And let me give you the opportunity to say a word to that future guy.
I'm not going to do that. I think I'll put myself in the line of fire. Shoot your shots.
Just tell him something. Tell him something.
I think
he might watch this video. I'm telling you.
Don't worry.
Maybe this might be the video that would.
They should contact you in the comment section. I put myself in the line of fire. Shoot your shots. The light is green enough. I don't have to do more. It can't get greener than this.
Yeah. Well. Hello, you viewers out there. You're welcome to House of Utterance, and it's such a great time to be here once more. I have a guest with me today. Her name is Ijoma. She's a prolific writer. I don't want to use the word, but she's that lawyer that doesn't give up easily. She has over 10 years, in her corporate practice. She's worked with international clients across Africa, Europe, even America, Canada. She knows her onions, and it's great to have you today, Ijoma. Can you just tell us something else I haven't mentioned about you that you want our guests to know?
Okay, thank you very much. I also love to dance. I love to write, as you said. I love to read. I love to read more than I love to write, which is very weird because people see more of the things that I write, especially on my social media platforms. I'm also a Sunday school teacher and a trained child psychologist.
A trained child psychologist and a Sunday school teacher. Wow, that's really nice. Well, basically today is that day where I want to ask you any question that I feel you should answer. I've known IJ for over 8 to 10 years. I think it's even much more than that.
12 years now.
About 12 years. Wow, that's really a long time. And I would want to put you in the middle of the ocean basically, and my goal is to see how you can tell us something that people necessarily don't know about you. We had a conversation on Sunday and we were talking about several issues affecting young women. I can see you're so beautiful, you look awesome, and I'm wondering, all the guys out there, are they blind? So what's really going on? Just what's happening relationship wise? What's happening with you, IJ? Are you into a relationship, or just talk to us?
Okay, this is kind of a trick question, but I'll try to answer as honestly as possible. Sometimes when I go through the thought process on what happened with my last relationship, I cannot honestly say that I know what the issues were, if the issues were clear enough for me, because I feel that the conversations that I and my ex had were conversations that could be worked on, things that I thought that if we were both committed to working on the issues that he raised, we would have been good. But he thought it was a foundational problem,
Wow.
a fundamental problem. It was like a character issue.
Okay.
And so there were just things he couldn't deal with. And then he also said that, there were things I used to say about how I wanted things to go, what I wanted.
Okay.
And he didn't think he was the right person to meet those demands or those things.
How long did he take him to, discover that he wasn't the right person? Because, sometimes, how guys run so parallel. A guy might already have known maybe even 5 years before time that maybe he may not necessarily want to see that relationship through. But he takes his time, he waits on and all that. But I wouldn't say he's that kind of person. But can you just tell us one or two of the issues that he raised? Let's see if, other ladies out there also have, similar issues being raised by guys and all that.
So I am very vocal about how I want to be treated in certain situations.
Okay.
If I feel that something is happening and I'm not getting enough kindness,
okay,
or enough attention, I will be one person to point it out. So I think one of the issues was how I used to address things that I was not okay with.
Okay.
So he said there was a lot of, I wanted this is how I feel, and he didn't think that he was supposed to pander to my feelings about situations, or maybe he's trying to be logical. Men think themselves to be the logical gender.
Yeah,
he's trying to be logical about a situation, but all I am talking about is how I feel about a situation. I'm not somebody who would sit in a situation and just keep quiet about it. I'm not saying that I can't go through that situation, but I'm saying that I will be vocal to say that I do not exactly like that this thing happened, and I want to have conversations around that thing that I feel that is going wrong. And I would hope that when I am talking about what I think is going wrong, I am communicating with somebody who tends to hear me out and understand what I'm saying.
For me personally, you know, as a man, I've been married for like going to 8 years now. And I recall when I recently got married, my wife used to really want to be vocal. And most times when she's doing some talking, like I tune off. If she had spoken for like 8 minutes, I only heard her for the first 60 seconds. The other 7 minutes out of the whole conversation, I wasn't really there. But I grew with time to really understand that, you know, you really necessarily have to listen to your spouse. Like right now, if she's talking, I can listen. If she wants to talk for 30 minutes, which she doesn't, I think at this stage of our relationship, I can actually put in that whole time listening to what she has to say. And much of the time, I've realized that having to hear her talk, it's more to my benefit. You know, I gain much more by listening to what my wife has to say, because it's like the whole intelligence thing now, it's in a cycle. I'm almost in a place where I feel like my wife is saying more reasonable things. She's making a whole lot more sense now. But would you think that it's as a result of the approach? Like, is there an approach issue, or is just an issue of, you know, somebody just feels that, okay, what she's saying, I beg, she should be logical. She should not remain, you know, in this emotional place.
So one thing for me is when I want to start a conversation, I try to say, oh, I don't like that this thing happened. One issue that I have that might now affect my approach is when I am stating what exactly it is that it's my problem or an issue that I'm having to something, and I get a defiant response, or a response that feels like, why should you even feel this way about this? And so that sets me off, and you know, that kind of triggers me, because I'm like, I wouldn't do this if you're the one who comes to say, oh, okay, I'm not okay that this happened. Even if I want to be defensive, I'm trying to still going to understand, why are you offended by what happened? I didn't think so much about this, or I didn't think that this would affect you in such a way. Okay, I'm sorry that I did this and you're not okay with it. How do we walk around making sure that you don't feel like this anymore? Or I do not do things in this regard. And then I also check, if I'm not doing this, how does it affect me? Does it take away anything from me to do better? But I get a lot of defiance if I am the one on the other end, and it kind of sets me off, and I can go, oh, okay. And you know, as a lawyer now, you now want to now put all your and then for someone and no, I'm like, at that moment.
But you don't bring lawyer to relationship.
No. I mean, like, as a lawyer, you know, you now start backing up things that you're saying with evidence. And outside of being a lawyer, I'm somebody who keeps in unconsciously keeps in a lot of memory, so I can recall dates and times, and even when I do not intend to, because I'm trying to put across a point, and I wouldn't feel the need to say all of this if I was heard. So I'm someone that if I am not heard, or there is a, you know, an offhandish way of attending to something that I talk about, I get pretty defensive about it. So I think that's the approach that he really didn't like. But I felt like over time, okay, if you say that this approach, you don't like it, but I have told you that something happened, at what time do you now address
the issue, right?
The issue that happened? Because if you don't address it, if you don't even understand that this affects me in such a way, you would not want to do better or act on this thing, because it will keep happening, and I do not know how to just sit and take anything in.
Wow. You know, you're talking about addressing, like making points. I think for most men necessarily don't like, for me, like initially, I didn't like addressing issues. And I'll tell my wife, do you really, like recently I had a conversation with her, and I was like, most times I kind of have grown to realize that I don't just say things that crop up on my mind almost immediately. If I want to tell my wife something, let's say there's something up and I want to really drive home that point, I can never tell her the first thing that comes to my mind, because that might break her. You know the way the mind works. You want to say Gary, but it's eba and soup and other things. Like it comes with a whole lot of, thought baggage in that sense. So when you drop the first things that come to your mind on your partner, so what I do, I think of, okay, this is the first thing on my mind. I'm like, okay, what's the second thing? I might now look for the third thing. So I'm toning down my thought process to be able to pass a message across to my wife or to my partner, as the case may be. Maybe that's one thing that maybe you can also look into, because men don't really like points. With guys, don't bring the evidence, just have a conversation. Because a guy will be like, okay, because I told you this, now you are now using evidence. The next time you are bringing evidence, the third time you are bringing evidence. So even his defenses, he will now be raising his own defenses in a point that you guys are no longer communicating in that particular sense. But back to something else. What do you necessarily think men are looking for?
Honestly, I'm not in the mind of men to know what
but from your experience,
they are looking
yeah.
for. But I find out that I'm not going to say majority, but I found out that in my dealings with some people, they tend to want to subject you to their own will.
Oh, subjection.
To their own will.
More like domination.
Dominate you the way that they want things, and not necessarily. So I am this person, being Christian, yeah. So I'm all for the whole submission thing and all that. But I am someone who submits because I know that I have the power to actually do otherwise.
Okay.
And then I say, in as much as I have the power to do otherwise.
Do you let a guy know that you have the power to do otherwise?
By virtue of talking to me, you already know that, I'm someone that I'm not from, I don't know if to say I'm not from a humble background. In the sense of the Nigerian word. I went to the best schools that my parents could offer. I had the best of educations, and I was intelligent enough to match up to the kind of training and education that my parents presented. So ordinarily, if you come and meet me, you would know that I am a very, very confident person. Albeit I might be very emotional, but I am a very confident person. I know what I bring to the table. I have run my own legal practice for at least 6-7 years now. That doesn't speak of somebody that, can be dominated or, be taken for a ride. So when I meet somebody and I know that I have all of this, but this is a man and I am Christian. And so because I am a lover of God, I am going to do whatever it is that I am commanded to do.
Commanded. I think that's a high sounding word. I don't think men should be in the business of commanding.
No. I do not know. The commandment is not from men. I am talking as a Christian. It's a commandment. Commandment to do this. And I do not do it at the beginning. I do not necessarily do it because this person is deserving, and when I say deserving, it's not necessarily because you have shown me, that you are somebody to be submitted to. I think it's something that comes with no requirements. There's no reason why this should be. But in the course of being someone, and you now see that, the person is now wanting you to be subservient, for the fact that I really, really have an issue with that. So there are things that women say when you're dating. Some people say, I've been playing wifely duties. I've really not gone all the way to know what wifely duties are in that aspect. But I know that I can be sacrificial with my time, my money, my attention, and all of that. And if I feel that on your own end, you're not even doing anything to make me feel, you're always asking, and I'm always giving of my time, affection, sacrificing, and I'm going to have an issue. And with, like I said, with the people that I've met, there is a lot of the need to want you to do something, submit in a certain way that you are not really comfortable with. So I'm going to give like an example. I have dated somebody once who I once told, can you please follow me to the market? Because I needed you to drop me at the market. I want to buy foodstuffs and everything. And there was like a lot of conversation about, I'm tired, I can't do it. Blah, blah. At that first instance, I sort of understood. But you find out that when you ask for little help here and there, there's a lot of... But then there's the conversation now, wow, since I've been dating you, you've not even said like this, let you cook for me. And all of that. I'm like... I actually do not have issues cooking and packaging food and bringing to you and whatever. But I have never seen you do anything you have an issue with. I never say enter the market to me, like take me to the market, let me be able to get this and all of that. I am making all of these demands. And then there's a conversation of, but there was a time that you said, you wanted to pay for something. And I now said, let me take care of it. I now said, there's a difference. I said, there's a difference. I have never outrightly asked anybody, can you do this for me? In a matter of conversation, I can say, I want to buy this. Or I want to do this, but I don't have enough money now. So maybe I'll just hold off on it and then I can do it later. And I'm always offered, can I help you sort this out? And I'm like, okay, because you're with this person. Maybe that's the reason why the person is offering to help you sort this financial issue. I don't necessarily look at it as, I do not even expect that from you. And if we're going to talk about finances and everything, I never hold back on buying gifts and giving, doing my own thing. So if we're going to be talking about financial commitments, I would say that to my own ability. So if we leave the financial part of things, in the acts of service, can you say that? Because you're making demands to be served and you're not doing the same.
Okay, in fact, one thing that comes to mind, because I've known you for a while, I know to an extent who IJ's father is.
Okay.
I know your father is he's like a total lover. Mm-hmm. He's totally committed, like, to your mom, to his kids.
Yeah.
Would you say that maybe you are looking for your father in the men or in the guys that come across to you?
I've heard a lot of people say this, so I'm not going to outrightly
because some people say that men are more watered down now.
I don't know about being watered down now. I also know that in my father's generation, they're not a lot like him too. Wow.
So your dad is more of an exceptional man, and it maybe an extreme exceptional man.
See, I was raised in a family that I could just say that we're outliers. We do not keep to what the regularly scheduled program is for every other person. So a lot of people have said that, maybe it's because of your father, you want this in other men. And I'll say, me and my father fall out, like, I might be a daddy's girl, but we fall out like every other time. He's like the most stubborn person I have ever come across.
Wow.
My father is very rigid.
You're lucky he has finished paying your school fees.
If he says, I tell him on his 60th birthday, I told him I would really, really love it if you were more amenable and all of that. But there is something that I know about him. And my father always would quote this scripture. He says, the commandments is heavy. And because he loves God, he feels like he has to do it. And that's one thing I said to you on Sunday, that I said, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
That's a big one, because even we are
presenting her holy
trying to find out how Christ
and blameless.
The
Do you get? And that is what he operates on.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I am looking for my father. I am looking for somebody that actually believes that, because I also believe the part of, wives submit to your husband as the head, and all of that. And then there's a commandment that says, my dad will always say that when men look at it and they're talking about submission, you tell them that's the easy part.
Wow.
Do you know what it is to love somebody like Christ loves the church? So every day he wakes up, he says to himself, am I willing to give my life for this person I've been married to for several years? Do you understand? So I tell my parents, I might not necessarily want the things that keep you put together, because there are some things you people hold on to that I feel like are archaic and whatever. Do you get? There is a way you people think about even trending issues and all of that, and I necessarily do not buy that idea. And my parents are very unified on their value system and the operation of their value system. It might not necessarily be about that, but I am looking for somebody that actually believes that this is what marriage is about.
Okay.
Do you understand? So that's why I keep saying that, my dad, he does all of these things. He will always tell you he can give, not easily, but he can give his life for his wife. He would love his wife like Christ loved the church. He would raise his children, there will be like, was the pinions in his hands, arrows quivered full of them, all of those Bible scriptures and everything. He would do all of that. But I think for my father, the reason why my dad does this is because of the life he lives as a Christian.
I just want to ask you one question. how many times, when was the last time you found a man that had this much understanding of scripture in terms of dealing with a woman? Like do this generation, do men really, are men that deep, you know? Are men deep from the point of, you know, what the Bible is actually saying about certain things in terms of relationship?
If the question,
or is all about, oh, she's fine, she has this, she has that, she's like, is it about the is it about just the physical things that guys are motivated by, or is there something deeper, something more deep-rooted in the conversation around before a guy moves to a lady to say, okay, I like you, I want us to be in a relationship? Are guys really deep enough these days, or is just all about shallow things?
So if you're saying, have I met any who I have been in a relationship,
like all this description
with,
of your dad, like has any guy come to you in that manner, showing that kind of understanding?
Actually, yes, but the reason
ratio
yeah. of those guys,
yes, ratio to the
it's
guys,
it's just one person in all of my
so I'm looking at like 5%.
It's just one person, but I think that the issues that I had are, like I told you, my father is a very rigid person.
Yeah.
So there are some times that you find out that some Christians can't separate rigidity from Christianity.
Yeah.
You know, there were all those, and I'm like, I don't think this is how I want to be with my Christian faith. I'm not saying, you know, go and be carnal and all of that, but there are just some things that, you know, people tied to their chests that, you know. So I grew up in a house where even if you want to eat, my father will ask you questions like, is that what God wants you to do right now?
Wow.
You know?
Your dad is deep.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So he's the fun parent, you know. As long as you're not breaking any moral rules and laws, he's the fun parent. My father will hardly spank or discipline and all of that, but you didn't want to test the limits of his discipline and all of that. So it never really cared. As long as you're not lying, you're not stealing, you're not jumping around with boys and everything, you're good with my dad. You people can spend 5-6 years and he's not screaming or shouting or anything at you.
So how far can you go in submitting to a man?
I know that there's not
like how far
there isn't supposed to be a condition, but if I ever meet anybody who is committed to loving me like Christ loved the church, you will get the limits of,
as in
I don't think there will be any limits to
you know why I would say a lot of men, you know, necessarily might not be too deep around thinking is I remember when I was to get married, and I've been to several weddings, you know, people talk about vows and all that. I never really took it. I'd never even thought of my vows really until I was asked the question, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife to this and that? And I just stood there. I was like, what's this? What are these people even saying? Do I take this woman, Juliana, in front of me? I took almost about 60 seconds to think about what the pastor wanted me to make I had never thought about it. It was just at that point. So you find a lot of men really are not as deep. I'm not necessarily a very deep person, but I know my wife is somebody that is very, very deep, extremely deep, too deep, you understand, to sometimes even understand. So it just begs the question that I think men really need to do more.
Let me put it this way. I think that the Nigerian or African system already raises girls to anticipate being married. Okay. So as a child, there are things you would do and you hear, now this thing you go do for husband house. Yeah. That kind of thing. And I do not think that the African man is raised that way. I have just met a few people. You already know my friend Simi Olatunji, who by the first time I met him, I already knew that whoever was going to be married to this person was going to have, you know, a very good marriage. There's no perfect marriage because he had already loved his wife before even meeting his wife, and he would go on and on about, you know, what he was going to do, what his value systems, and if he found anybody who shared those value systems. And you rarely meet young men in their 30s at that point already thinking of their marriage vows, you know, what is going to be like, what their weddings are going to be. This is something that you naturally notice women are thinking about and everything. Let me shock you.
Please short me.
I have already written my marriage vows 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I just know that I just want to meet somebody who fits into, because I know that I knew 5 years ago that I would not be getting married to someone I do not feel this way about.
Okay.
I also knew that it wasn't even about feelings and everything. I wouldn't marry anybody and not be able to make this kind of commitment towards the person. Can you naturally say that men are? So I know somebody who says that he thinks he's old enough to marry.
Can you marry a guy that you earn more money than?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes, I can.
What would that make of you?
How? What would that make of me? How?
Do you think money can change you?
There has never been a time money.
IJ, 1 billion naira in your account now. Then you are dating somebody that is earning maybe like 200k a month.
If it's okay for us to travel around the world, we're fine. Bills on me. Does it take
men
anything
out there, but you know
does it
guys,
take anything
I don't
away
know.
from
I don't
this
know.
man?
But
As far as you are not. It's not
but
like
there are some guys that don't want bills to be on you. That's the point.
that's the problem. That's the problem. There's never going to be a time in an argument, it will come up and I'll be like, oh, because I earn more than you. See, just I don't like to talk about my past. I have paid school fees for someone I'm dating. Even when we broke up, it was never a breakup conversation. After all, I paid your fees. We addressed the issue why I said, let us break up. Because at that time, when I knew him, his dad had, not like his dad didn't have money, but there were a lot of children, all your children. It's not like me that there are so many years in between I and my siblings. You have 5 children. Everybody is at different stages in the university and secondary school.
I want to do PhD. I'm looking for money.
Ask your wife.
Since IJ don't pay school fees for people that has it.
But how much was fees then? Like 20,000, blah, blah, blah. And my dad is someone that, at the time I was going to school, I was literally the only child that was in the higher institution. So I used to get enough pocket money and all of that. Instead of blowing into shawarma and burger and everything, there was someone who needed help. It wasn't even a conversation.
Yeah, it's really
and it was not like he asked me, my school fees, Pops is going to delay. I was like, okay, let me sort it out.
Wow. Awesome.
And when it was almost exam time, he now came and said, oh, okay, Popsy has finally sent the money. Thank God I paid it in time. I'm like, you're going to have issues with pocket money later. Hold the fees, and so it wasn't a conversation. Ordinarily, on a very good day, I am always open to doing things for friends, doing surprises and birthdays and spending money and all of that. So let's leave it that way. We're not dating. You're just my friend.
Okay.
I will still go.
There are like two more things. I know that we are almost. I can feel the body language of the room, so I can tell where the time is.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, very shortly, are you ready to get into another relationship now?
Of course.
Like, you're mentally ready, emotionally ready,
of
and
course.
all that. And let me give you the opportunity to say a word to that future guy.
I'm not going to do that. I think I'll put myself in the line of fire. Shoot your shots.
Just tell him something. Tell him something.
I think
he might watch this video. I'm telling you. Maybe this might be the video that would.
They should contact you in the comment section. I put myself in the line of fire. Shoot your shots. The light is green enough. I don't have to do more. It can't get greener than this.
Yeah, well, it's really been nice, IJ, talking with you, and I hope that you would be back to studio so that we can talk on more issues. I for one was thinking we would delve into issues around profession, career, how the women interface within their professional career and all of that, and how do they merge all of that, maybe in relationship, in dealing with the opposite sex, things of that nature. But I think we've had enough for today.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
welcome.
honoring this invitation.
You're
and
welcome.
like
And
I always
I'll
do
be
in
back at
every
any time.
of our sessions, I always just say a very brief prayer. And my prayer for you basically is that God is going to take you to heights unimaginable.
Amen.
He's going to bring that lovely, awesome, wonderful man that he has prepared for you. And your life is going to be beautiful and awesome and wonderful. May God continue to keep us all in Jesus' name. Till I come your way next time in the next video, do have a very wonderful time. All the best, guys. I'm out.